My name is Binta, and I'm 30 years old. If you ask me about my love life, I'd say it's been a roller coaster, but without the fun part. I've been in a few relationships, but for some reason, none of them ever led to marriage. It's almost like I have some invisible sign on my forehead that says, not wife material. Take my first boyfriend, for example. He was charming, sweet, and seemed perfect, until he told me he wasn't ready for commitment because he was finding himself. Finding himself? The man was already 35. Then there was the guy who said I was too independent. Apparently, being able to pay my own bills and change a light bulb made him feel unneeded. Oh, and don't get me started on the one who told me he couldn't marry me because his mother didn't like the way I cooked rice. By the time I turned 29, I had started wondering if I was the problem. Maybe I wasn't pretty enough, or maybe I talked too much. I even tried Googling things like, why am I still single at 30? But all the answers were so depressing I had to close the page. Honestly, it felt like I was running a dating marathon where every man I met tripped and fell before the finish line. Some of them were just too unserious, treating relationships like a casual hobby. Others acted like getting married was as scary as fighting a lion. And a few, well, let's just say they were better off dating their phones. At one point, I decided to give up on love altogether. I told myself, Binta, focus on your career, enjoy your life, and let marriage come when it wants. But deep down, I couldn't shake the dream of one day meeting someone who would love me for who I am. Someone who wouldn't run away at the word commitment. I tried to laugh about it with my friends. Maybe I should start handing out marriage application forms, I joked. But even though we laughed, there were nights when I lay in bed, wondering if I'd ever find my person. Still, life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it, and little did I know, my biggest surprise was just around the corner. I finished university a few years ago, and life has been pretty decent since then. I have a good job that pays my bills and even leaves me with enough to spoil myself once in a while. My apartment is nice and just the way I like it, quiet, clean, and full of snacks I don't like to share. Sure, my life isn't perfect, but I can't complain. Still, there's this tiny corner of my heart that dreams of more. You know, the kind of more that involves a partner, a home filled with laughter, and maybe a little one running around making a mess. I've always wanted to get married and start a family, but I'm not in a hurry. It's not like I'm standing on the street holding a sign that says, husband wanted. I've learned the hard way that rushing into relationships doesn't end well. So now, I'm taking my time. If someone comes along, they need to be serious, no games, no drama. I'm done with the trial and error phase of dating. I want a partner who's ready to build a life with me, not someone who's just passing time. Until then, I'll keep living my life, going to work, eating way too much chocolate, and binge watching my favorite shows. But deep down, I still hold on to that hope that one day, someone will come along who makes me believe that love is worth the wait. One ordinary day, something completely unexpected happened, something that turned my simple life upside down. Musa, my repairman, came over to fix my washing machine. Now, let me tell you a little about Musa. He's been my go-to guy for anything that needs fixing in my house for years. Need a leaking tap sorted? Call Musa. A stubborn door won't close? Call Musa. This man is like a superhero with a toolbox. Musa is 36 years old, and is one of the kindest people I've ever met. He has this calm, friendly way of talking that makes you feel like everything will be okay, even if your washing machine has decided to become a fountain. Over the years, we've built a casual friendship. He's the kind of guy who always has a smile on his face and a funny story to tell. Whenever he comes around, we usually chat for a bit while he works. He tells me about his adventures fixing things around the neighborhood, and I share random stories about my life. It's nothing deep, just light and easy conversations that always leave me laughing. So, on this particular day, I wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary. Musa showed up, toolbox in hand, ready to tackle my rebellious washing machine. I made him some tea because that's our thing. Musa never works without his tea. As he worked, we joked around like usual. I teased him about how my washing machine seemed to need his attention more often than I did, and he laughed, saying, maybe it just wants me to visit. Little did I know, This wasn't going to be a regular repair job. Musa had something on his mind, something that would completely catch me off guard and change the way I saw him forever. After Musa finished fixing the washing machine, he surprised me by asking if we could sit down in the living room. At first, I thought it was just one of our usual chats, maybe he was going to share another funny story or ask for more tea. But the look on his face told me this wasn't one of those moments. Binta, he began, his voice steady but serious, I've been thinking about something for a while, and I feel like I need to say it. I blinked, confused. Musa, the cheerful repairman who always seemed to have a joke ready, looked unusually nervous. What is it, Musa? I asked, my curiosity growing. He took a deep breath, his eyes locking with mine, and said, I want you to be my girlfriend. I blinked, unsure if I had heard him correctly. Before I could say anything, he continued, I've thought about this for a long time, Binta. I know you a little, and to me, you're the perfect lady. I've been in relationships before, too many, honestly, but most of them didn't work out. I don't know why, but they just didn't feel right. I stared at him, completely taken off guard. Musa, my repairman, was pouring his heart out in my living room, and I had no idea what to say. And it's not just that, he added, his voice steady but full of emotion. I don't just want to be your boyfriend. I want to marry you. You're the kind of woman I've been looking for all this time. For a moment, I just sat there, speechless. My repairman, the same Musa who came over with his toolbox and a big smile every time something in my house broke, was now telling me I was his dream woman. It was so unexpected, I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or ask him if he was joking. Musa, I finally said, my voice softer than I expected, this is a lot to take in. I mean, I never thought you felt this way about me. He nodded, his expression calm. I understand, Binta. I didn't plan to say this today, but I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I know it's sudden, but I just had to tell you how I feel. Musa, I finally said, my voice shaky with uncertainty, you're a good man, but, I trailed off, struggling to find the right words. How do you tell someone who just bared their soul to you that you've never seen them in that way? I just never imagined us together like that. For a moment, I held my breath, expecting disappointment or maybe even frustration. But Musa's expression softened instead. There was no sign of hurt or anger, just a quiet understanding that caught me off guard. He gave me a small smile, the kind that felt both reassuring and bittersweet, as if he'd already prepared himself for this exact moment. I understand, Binta, he said gently, his tone steady and calm. I wasn't sure how you'd feel, but I just couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I needed you to know. His honesty struck a chord in me. Here was a man, vulnerable and sincere, laying his feelings out on the table without any expectation. It wasn't the grand, dramatic confession you see in movies. It was simple, real, and heartfelt. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt guilty for not being able to reciprocate his feelings, while another part felt a deep admiration for his courage. It's not every day someone puts their heart on the line like that. Musa, I said softly, I respect you for being honest with me. It takes a lot of courage to say what you did, and I hope you know I value you as a friend. He nodded, his smile unwavering. Thank you, Binta. I just wanted to be truthful. No matter what, I'm still here if you ever need me. And with that, the moment passed, leaving behind a strange mix of emotions I couldn't quite sort through. Musa may not have been the man I imagined myself with, but he had shown me a level of sincerity and respect that I would never forget. To my surprise, Musa didn't look hurt or offended. He just nodded and smiled. I understand, Binta, he said. I just thought I should tell you how I feel. If you ever change your mind, I'll be here. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, Musa continued to visit for repairs, and we talked more. I started seeing a different side of him, a side I hadn't noticed before. He was thoughtful, dependable, and genuinely cared about me. One day, he brought up the topic again, but this time, he added something that caught me off guard. Binta, he said, I've been searching for a wife for a long time, but no one feels right. Then I remembered you, and I realized you're the kind of woman I've been looking for. You're independent, smart, and kind-hearted. Please think about it. I don't know what came over me, but something about the way Musa spoke stirred something deep inside me. Maybe it was the way his voice carried so much sincerity, or the fact that he wasn't trying to force anything on me. He wasn't pushy, just honest. For the first time in a long while, I felt seen, really seen, and it touched me in a way I didn't expect. After sitting quietly for a moment, I looked at him and said, "Okay, Musa. I'll give this a chance." The smile that spread across his face was unlike anything I'd ever seen. It wasn't just happiness, it was relief, gratitude, and hope all wrapped into one. From that moment, everything between us shifted. We started spending more time together, and not just during his repair visits. We talked for hours about our lives, our dreams, and our fears. Musa showed me a side of himself that I'd never noticed before, a thoughtful, caring man who truly wanted to understand me. He didn't just tell me he cared, he showed it in the little things he did. He'd bring me my favorite snacks when he came over or send me funny messages in the middle of the day to make me smile. He wasn't flashy or dramatic, but his kindness and consistency spoke louder than words. Musa was a man of his word, and he made that clear every single day. He treated me with respect, never taking my trust for granted. I could feel how much he valued me, and it wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was in the way he listened, the way he always showed up when he said he would, and the way he made me feel safe. For someone who had spent years in relationships that never felt quite right, this was new for me. It wasn't perfect, what relationship is, but it was real. And slowly, I started to see that maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been giving Musa the credit he deserved. This was a man who truly loved me, and for the first time in a long time, I started to believe that love could be this simple, this steady, and this true. But then, things took a completely unexpected turn. A few weeks later, after spending a night together, I found out I was pregnant. I was shocked, confused, and honestly, a little scared. The thought of telling Musa made my heart race. How would he react? Would he be upset? I had no idea what to expect, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on me. When I finally told him, his reaction completely surprised me. Instead of shock or anger, he broke into the biggest, most joyful smile I'd ever seen. "This is the best news I've ever heard, Binta," he said, his voice filled with excitement. Before I could even fully process what was happening, he pulled me into a tight, warm hug. "I wanted to marry you anyway, but this just makes everything perfect." I stood there, still in a bit of a daze, trying to wrap my head around it. Musa was happy, actually. He was beyond happy. This wasn't how I thought the conversation would go at all. "Musa, are you serious?" I asked, still not sure if this was all real. He nodded, his face lighting up with joy. "Of course I'm serious, Binta. I've been wanting to marry you for a while now. And this just makes it even better. I'm so glad to know we can have a family together." As we sat down to talk, Musa opened up about something I hadn't expected. He admitted that for a long time, he had wondered if the reason I wasn't married yet was because I couldn't have children. It hadn't been something I'd ever shared with him, but he'd always been curious, and now, hearing the news, he was both relieved and overjoyed. For the first time, I realized that this wasn't just about the pregnancy, it was about us. Musa wasn't just happy about the baby, he was happy because it meant we could have a future together. It wasn't perfect, but somehow, it felt just right. A few months later, we had a small but beautiful wedding ceremony, surrounded by the people who mattered most, our closest friends and family. It wasn't extravagant, but it felt perfect. As I stood next to Musa, holding his hand, I couldn't stop smiling. There we were, starting a new chapter of our lives, and everything just felt right. A little while later, something truly incredible happened. I gave birth to twins. At the time, I couldn't believe it. I had always imagined becoming a mother, but having not just one baby, but two, was beyond anything I had ever expected. It felt like a dream. At my age, I thought that maybe I was too old for such a big surprise, but life had other plans for me. When I first held both of them in my arms, I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. I had a boy and a girl, both so tiny and perfect, and they had changed my world in ways I couldn't describe. It was overwhelming, exhausting, and absolutely wonderful all at once. Musa and I couldn't have been happier. Our little family was growing, and everything felt so right. Sometimes, I still look at my twins and think about how everything in my life had led up to this moment. Life had surprised me once again in the most beautiful way. I never could have predicted that my life would take such an unexpected turn. From unsure moments to finding out I was pregnant, to this, marrying a man who truly cared for me, who was excited to start a family with me. Life really does have a funny way of surprising you. Now, as I sit here and write this, I'm living a life I never imagined. I'm married to a man who loves and respects me in a way I never thought possible. We're expecting our first child together, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. It's all so surreal. Looking back, I realize that love often comes from the most unexpected places. I thought I had everything figured out, but Musa showed me that sometimes, the best things in life arrive when you least expect them. It wasn't about finding the perfect person, but about finding someone who genuinely cared. And that's more than enough.